I'm very disappointed if the case is true that Alex Garland is not directing any more films, because he is a born director. He really has it in his DNA. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Isaac Joel, and you're listening to The Critics. And before we jump into today's review, I'd like to give a special announcement. You may notice that I'm not in our typical recording studio. That is because we have now upgraded into a larger studio where we are able to work on so many different projects. We are turning this space that was once just a storage unit essentially into an actual practical set that people can use for photography, videography. People can get their headshots here, do fashion photo shoots, shoot music videos, or work on post-production. We even completely repainted the walls in here. It was this ugly, disgusting green color before, and now we've upgraded it into this beautiful light tone gray that really sets in beautifully for whatever projects that we decide to work on in the future. Going forward, this is where we will be recording our podcast, The Critics. And right now we are still under construction. As you can see, there's boxes around me. The floor is messy. By the time I'm done with this place, it's going to be completely brand new and redesigned. You're not even going to recognize it. We have a lot of ideas in the making and projects that are coming out that we are in post-production on right now. So I do ask that you guys please stay up to date with us. I really do appreciate those that listen to these reviews that are legitimate fans, because if it wasn't for you all and those that actually genuinely care about what it is that we create and what it is that we tell and what it is that we produce, I continue to do this because of you, because of how much you guys care. And there's nothing else in my life that I'd rather be doing. I really enjoy what it is that I do currently. I go to movies every week. I see at least 2, 3, 4 different films in the theaters, whether it being on IMAX or larger digital formats, and I get to review them here. I'm also a full-time photographer. I'm working on a feature film. I work on many different large and small projects. I really am flexible and adaptable. And so this really does feel like a brand new beginning, a new fresh start for whatever it is that we do in the future. So please subscribe, like, and stay up to date with everything that we do. Being the passionate photographer that I am, I'm actually very excited to finally be speaking about this film, A24 Civil War, directed by Alex Garland. This is a film that really spoke to me and resonated with me while I saw it in IMAX, in theaters with a pretty genuinely nice, large crowd. And to me, that's always important. Whenever I go see any film, I'm always looking at, I really cross my fingers that it's going to be packed out. I'm not one of those people that are like, oh man, I hope this is a private screening and there's nobody here and it's just all, those are cool and intimate every now and then, but believe me, I love watching films with a large crowd, and it really makes the experience that much better. For me, being in the seats, I was directly right in the middle, in the center of it, and so I really felt immersed into the entire experience. Now, I really, really love this film. I was thoroughly impressed with Alex Garland, Kristen Dunst, and the exceptional cast that portrayed their characters. For me, I had an opportunity before seeing Civil War. I watched Ex Machina in theaters. A24 is doing this new re-release thing. Everybody is doing re-release. We have re-releases for James Cameron, for Spider-Man, for Oppenheimer, Tenet, Interstellar, just all these films are just being put back into theaters, and some of them are rightfully so. I know I saw Spider-Man last week in theaters, and it was an out-of-body experience. I saw Ex Machina in IMAX before Civil War, and I really, really am grateful that I had that opportunity to see it. If you're someone like me that likes to try and stay up to date with entertainment news, you'll hear that there's a large rumor, or I believe it's just kind of a fact at this point, that Alex Garland has stated that he is no longer in love with filmmaking, that he has fallen out of love, and that Civil War is his last film, which is kind of very odd that they didn't promote it that way. This is probably something that he just came to the conclusion with. I don't know if he had a bad experience with the studio, maybe with some producers or agents, and he was just like, you know what, this has just been awful. You know, I love the film that I made, that I wrote, that I directed, but I hated the experience of having to put up with people dropping out, people giving me hang-ups. I really don't even know if that's even the case, if there was issues and hang-ups with the creation of this film. Besides that one actor dropping out, there's really not much said about that story, and I would love to hear a little bit more about that exactly. But the way that I've heard it, that it's been told, was that an actor, an unknown actor, could just be a nobody, honestly, a C-level actor, dropped out of the role of Jesse Plemons, and he came in and was like, you know what, yeah, I'll do it. I'll help you guys out. And I really think he came in and saved the day. His performance is one of the most outstanding that everybody seems to be talking about. It's all this time later, after seeing the film, that Jesse Plemons, that one moment that he had, and honestly, it was just a small moment. It was just like barely like a 5-minute scene. He didn't really, sure, he did something, but he didn't really do anything that crazy. You know, I didn't really understand the aesthetics of his look, of his costumes. I don't know if he just came to set with those sunglasses and was like, listen, I'll do your little movie, but I am not taking my sunglasses off. Or maybe that was a genuine character choice. I know a lot of people are kind of drawing a comparison between that and Jack Black from Tropic Thunder, saying that they literally look the exact same. Anyways, I'm getting kind of off topic here. To me, one of the most outstanding performances, however, in this film comes from Kristen Dunst herself. It's been such a long time since we've seen her in the theaters. I genuinely, and I'm not trying to be funny here, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I genuinely cannot remember the last time we saw her in theaters besides Spider-Man. Now, maybe I'm just not watching enough movies. Spider-Man really seems to kind of be like the last thing that she really is kind of known for. And there's times where she's kind of like talked down about the MCU, and now recently she's kind of like coming out like, oh, well, I would have loved to have returned if they had asked me. So it's kind of like contradicting like her like dissing them, but also like, oh, I want to be part of it. I need jobs right now. I need to pay my bills. Apparently, like, she's kind of struggling a little bit. That aside, I think she is a phenomenal actress, and she could be doing so much more. I really hope that this movie kind of showcases that after all these years, you know, she's been a childhood actress. After all this time, she still has what it takes to bring any story to the next level. The story follows war photographers in a kind of distant future. If I had to speculate, maybe like 5-10 years, really not that far off. The president is in hiding while there is a civil war going on. He disbanded the FBI and other agencies and hasn't lent any aid or any communication out into the world. The last media broadcast that he put out was about like 9-11 months ago, something in that area of time. And these reporters, these journalists are on a mission to get to him before he's assassinated, before the soldiers and anybody really gets to him and assassinate him. And so they really want to get a quote. They want to get an interview from him. They want to really try to sit down with him and ask him, you know, the hard questions. You know, why have you been in hiding? Why has everything gotten the way that it has? The president is played by Nick Offerman, who is one of my favorite effing actors of all time. Love him in Parks and Rec. He has done other small roles here and there. I don't think this movie utilized him at all. I was excited to watch him play the president of the United States in that format in IMAX, and he only has 2 scenes, literally only has 2 scenes, one in the very beginning and one at the very end. I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'm not going to ruin it for you. If you haven't seen the film, I do highly recommend that you go check it out. His presence is known in the film. His presence is what's driving the motivations of the other characters and the supporting characters. However, when it comes down to it, there is no dialogue exchange between him and any of the main characters. Now, I understand that the story did not require that, and that wasn't probably necessary to the writers, the director. However, to me, as the audience, it just kind of felt very empty at the end of the day, because you have one of the greatest legendary actors playing the president, and all he does is gives a speech. I really wasn't expecting this movie either to be a quest, a journey. You spend a lot of time with the characters in a car, driving, talking, smoking weed, smoking cigarettes, drinking, and talking about all of their hangups and their issues and pretty much what has led them to here. And all that character development is very compelling. You have people that they come across that aren't even necessarily main characters or main players in the game, but just really subjects for them to photograph, for them to capture as they're making their way through to Washington. Now, I kind of call this and compare this to like a quest, a journey story, because not a lot of people are really interested in that. That can kind of be a little bit boring, a little lazy to some people. Me personally, I don't really love those movies where characters are just in a car all the time talking about their feelings, and then they stop at a hotel, and then they're eating and they're talking about their feelings again, and something happens at the end. Like, to me, that's just a waste of time. There's nothing exciting going on. And so in this case for Civil War, it being the large format IMAX film that it is, I really do think that its presence demands you to go see it in IMAX. I'll always be that critic that highly recommends you go watch anything in IMAX. If you have that opportunity to see Hereditary, Uncut Gems, anything in IMAX, I'm jumping on that. I don't care what film it is. If it's something that is very, very close and interesting to me and to my heart and to the culture, you know, I'm very excited for that re-release of Interstellar that's coming out later this year. There's not a release date for that yet, but you better believe the minute those tickets drop, they're instantly sell out. I'm sure they're gonna be giving out film strips, so you really gotta be paying attention and pay close attention to these things and these details. That's why I follow AMC, I follow Harkins, you know, my local movie theaters, so that I can stay up to date with any advanced screenings. I thought the cinematography for this film was absolutely gorgeous. You know, it being a film about photography, you better make the... It being a film about photography, it better look as pristine and beautiful as possible. And I really do think that they spent a lot of time making sure that the film looked and was shot as crispy as possible. And I think it's totally worth it. In my opinion, by the time you get to the final act, they're in Washington. Everything has built up to this moment. This is the climax of the film. And everything, all the trinkets and the elements that they have laid out before you have been foreshadowed and laid up for this final moment, for this final act. And it's really devastating. It's kind of heartbreaking, but you know it's coming. You know what's about to happen. You can feel it as the scene is playing out. And then when it happens, oh man, my jaw just dropped on the floor. I was bawling, I was crying, I was so devastated by what had transpired. And for that alone, this film was powerful for me and a force to be reckoned with. And I seriously highly recommend that you guys watch this in theaters whenever you get the opportunity. I've been watching a lot of films lately, and when I do watch films, I'm always looking at them from a different perspective. I'm looking at it from a writer's point of view. I'm looking at it from a cinematographer's point of view. I'm looking at it from a director's and actor's point of view. I try to put myself in different shoes so that I can actually understand the larger scale of the story. In this particular case, I've been looking very closely at editing. When an editor uses a particular shot, and if they're cutting to the correct shot next or not, if they're using the rule of thirds, if they're using jump cuts, if they're actually utilizing their tools correctly or not. And lately, I've been seeing a lot of terrible editing. In the case of Civil War, this was one of the most impressive editing I have seen in any film put out this year thus far. I really enjoyed the subtle tricks that they used with the photography, the black and white, the sound effects. When it's quiet, it's quiet. This is one of my all-time favorite effect that any filmmaker can use in their projects. When you want it to be silent, you hold that silence. Hold it, hold it, hold it. And when you've held it for too long, hold it for just a little bit more. And it really builds up that suspense, that tension. And this film uses that perfectly. I'm very disappointed if the case is true that Alex Garland is not directing any more films, because he is a born director. He really has it in his DNA. And I'm not just saying that for the sake of this being his last film or me being the big fan that I am of his actual body of work. I do believe that he is one of the future filmmakers that aspiring ones such as myself look up to. You know, you have your Denis Villeneuve's, your Christopher Nolan's, your Steven Spielberg's, and I truly believe Alex Garland belongs in that Mount Rushmore of directors. The subtle nuances that he plays into his scripts, his characters, his camera techniques, his editing. It's impressive. It's unlike anything that I've seen in the movie theaters. Very interested to hear what it is you think. Let me know in the comments below if you've already had a chance to check out Civil War, if you loved it or if you hated it. I know there's a lot of controversy around the politics, the fact that there really is no political stance in it. There really is no reason why certain groups are at war with each other, that are fighting and trying to kill one another, and that kind of bothers some people. That doesn't really have any effect with me. It's about the characters, the photographers at the end of the day. I would like to apologize for being behind on several reviews. I've had a chance to see so many movies and TV shows, but I've been so busy moving into the studio, redesigning it, repainting it, restructuring everything, getting all the new technology that we need to really make this functional. So right now what you're seeing is the early stages. We are still in the beginning of this production. And so by the time that we're finished with all this, I hope that you guys see a huge transformation. I had the chance to see the Ministry of Gentlemanly Warfare, Challengers, The First Omen, Late Night with the Devil, and most recently Abigail. And I haven't had a chance to really talk about any of these films, but I can tell you right now, I absolutely loved all of them for their own different reasons, and I'll be sure to get more into that back here at the Critics. So please be patient and stay tuned for everything that we have to come. Hit that like and subscribe button below, and as always, I have been your host, Isaac Joel with the Critics. I'll catch you next time.